In 2003, a man who earned over $300 million filed for bankruptcy with $30 million in debt. His name was Mike Tyson. And before you dismiss this as another celebrity horror story, sit with the number for a second. $300 million passed through his hands. Not stolen, not lost in a crash. Spent, leaked, given away, one decision at a time. If production alone built wealth, Tyson should have died a billionaire. He didn't. And that single fact should terrify you more than any recession ever could, because it means the thing standing between you and wealth was never the size of your paycheck. It was something quieter, something almost nobody teaches. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries before credit cards existed. He wrote that men are undone not by fortune, but by their own inability to govern themselves when fortune arrives. Replace the word fortune with income, and you have the entire hidden syllabus of personal finance in one sentence. Here is the uncomfortable setup. Americans are carrying the highest credit card debt in recorded history. Of the people earning 6 figures a year, roughly 1 in 10 still lives paycheck to paycheck. Read that twice. $100,000 a year and still broke by the 3rd week of the month. That is not an income problem. That is a governance problem. And Machiavelli had no patience for men who could not govern themselves, because he knew something the modern world keeps forgetting. Power that cannot be controlled will eventually control you. Money is no different. It is not evil. It is not good. It is simply a force. And a force left ungoverned always finds the weakest hand to escape through. So let's strip away the moral fog most people carry around money. You've heard it your whole life. Money is the root of all evil. It's a comforting lie, because it lets you resent what you don't have instead of examining how you handle what you do have. Machiavelli would call this a story the weak tell themselves to avoid responsibility. Money is not moral or immoral. Money is an expression of value. When you hand over currency, you are saying, I believe this is worth what I am giving up to get it. That's the entire transaction. Nothing more. The wealthy did not necessarily take something from you. In most cases, they built something the market decided was worth paying for. Understanding this single reframe changes everything, because now the question is no longer who do I resent. The question becomes what value am I producing and what value am I destroying every single month? And that question exposes the real war going on inside your bank account, a war between 2 forces: production and consumption. Every dollar that enters your life arrives because you produced something the world wanted, usually your labor. Every dollar that leaves does so because you consumed something. Your net worth, right now, today, is nothing more than the visible scoreboard of that war. Not your salary, not your job title. The gap between what you produce and what you consume. Machiavelli built his entire philosophy on one brutal premise. Men reveal their true nature not in comfort, but under pressure, when temptation is closest and discipline is hardest. Your bank account is that pressure test, running every single day, whether you're watching it or not. Now here is where it gets dangerous, because your brain is not on your side in this war. It was never built for savings accounts and interest rates. It was built to survive a season, not to plan a decade. And that ancient wiring produces very modern traps. The first is what behavioral finance calls the ostrich effect, the almost physical urge to avoid checking your own numbers. That flinch you feel before opening a banking app after a night out, that's not laziness. That's your nervous system protecting you from information it thinks will hurt you. But an animal that refuses to see the predator does not survive the predator. It simply gets caught looking away. The second trap is hyperbolic discounting, your mind's addiction to the reward that is close, over the reward that is large but distant. It's why a new pair of shoes today feels more real than a stronger portfolio 5 years from now. Machiavelli warned that men are moved far more by what is in front of them than by what is true. The wise ruler accounted for this weakness in others. The wise individual must account for it in himself. And the third, the most social of all, is what happens when your neighbor buys the car and suddenly you need one too. Social proof. The instinct to calibrate your worth against the people standing closest to you. Machiavelli, a man who spent his life studying courts, understood this better than any modern economist. He knew that men do not measure themselves against truth. They measure themselves against each other. And in a world where everyone is broadcasting a curated version of their life, that comparison has become a silent, expensive war that almost nobody consciously chose to enter. You are not just competing for a paycheck anymore. You are financing an image for an audience that mostly does not care. Watch how this plays out in an ordinary life. Two co-workers, same salary, same title, same office. One of them gets a raise and immediately upgrades the car because the raise feels like proof he's arrived. The other gets the same raise and moves the difference somewhere it can't be touched before the following morning. 5 years pass. The first co-worker is still explaining why he needs one more raise just to breathe. The second co-worker has quietly built a position the first one can no longer even see. Same income, same opportunities, completely different outcomes. Not because one of them was smarter, because one of them was governed and the other was not. Machiavelli would say the second man understood something the first never bothered to learn, that fortune favors the prepared, not the deserving. This is the real rat race, and it has nothing to do with having a job. A 9-to-5 is not a trap. A job you actually need, a job you cannot walk away from without collapse, that is the trap. The moment your lifestyle requires the next paycheck to arrive on time, every single time, forever, your employer stops being an option and becomes a captor. Machiavelli wrote that dependency is the death of power. A prince who cannot survive without his allies is not a prince. He is a hostage wearing a crown. The same is true for you. If losing one paycheck would end you, you are not free. You are simply comfortable for now. So how does a strategist escape this? Not through motivation. Motivation fades by Thursday. Through structure. The first move is awareness without flinching, tracking every dollar that leaves your hands, not to shame yourself, but because a ruler who does not know the state of his own territory cannot possibly defend it. The second move is a budget, not as punishment, but as a border. A line you decide in advance, so that in the moment of temptation, the decision has already been made by a calmer version of you. The third move, and the one almost everyone skips, is the emergency reserve. 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting untouched, not to be spent, but to exist as leverage. Because the moment you have a reserve, you stop making decisions from fear. And a decision made from fear is always a worse decision than one made from position. And notice something else about that ostrich effect, that hyperbolic pull toward the near reward, that quiet comparison against the neighbor's new car. None of these forces announce themselves. They don't arrive as a single catastrophic decision. Nobody goes bankrupt because of one purchase. They go bankrupt the way a coastline erodes, one wave at a time, invisible in the moment, undeniable in the aggregate. Machiavelli studied the fall of princes the same way, and he noticed the pattern was never a single betrayal. It was 100 small compromises. Nobody bothered to add up until the kingdom was already gone. Your finances collapse the exact same way. Quietly. Then, all at once. Then everyone acts surprised. But here is where most personal finance advice quietly stops, and where the real strategy begins. Reducing consumption has a flaw. You can only cut so much before you're cutting into your own dignity. Machiavelli never built an empire by counting coins. He built it by understanding leverage, by understanding that the ceiling on defense is always lower than the ceiling on offense. The frugal path will keep you from ruin. It will rarely make you powerful. Power requires production at scale, and production at scale does not mean working harder at your job. It means finding where the market has a problem, building a solution, and selling that solution to more people than your own two hands could ever personally serve. This is the entrepreneurial shift, the moment you stop trading hours for money and start trading value for leverage. It doesn't require a business plan on day one. It requires a skill, sharpened until the market notices it, and a willingness to put that skill in front of more people than you're comfortable with. The frugal man survives the storm. The man who builds leverage owns the ship. Here is the identity shift Machiavelli would want you to sit with tonight. You are not poor because the economy is unfair, though sometimes it is. You are not stuck because you lack intelligence, though the system rarely tells you what actually matters. You are stuck, if you are stuck, because somewhere along the way you accepted a script you never chose: work, spend what's left over, hope. That script was written for predictable people, and predictable people are easy to sell to, easy to manage, easy to keep exactly where they are. Rewrite it. Understand that money is simply value in motion, neither villain nor savior. Understand that every dollar entering or leaving your life is a vote for who you're becoming. Guard your production. Interrogate your consumption. Build the reserve that buys you the freedom to say no. And then, only then, stop playing defense and start building something that produces value while you sleep. Tyson had the production. He never built the governance. Don't make his mistake at a smaller scale and call it bad luck. Ask yourself the only question that actually matters tonight. Not how much do I earn? Not how much do I deserve? But this month, was I the ruler of my money, or was I simply the last stop it made on its way somewhere else? Most people have never once asked themselves that question in those words. That's exactly why most people stay exactly where they are. If this changed how you see the money already sitting in your life, that's the entire point. This isn't motivation. This is structure, applied with discipline, over time nobody else is willing to give it. Most people will hear this and go back to the script. A few will close the app, open their bank statement without flinching, and start the war on the right side for the first time. Decide which one you are.